Hi everybody, how's it going? I'm Jack Devine. Welcome back to another episode of Jacksnax. Today we're going to snack on the topic of vibrato. I'm going to show you from my point of view what I'm actually seeing, my player's perspective, when I do different types of bends, different types of vibratos, and just generally speaking, what it looks like when a player, I've been playing for 40 some odd years, what it looks like. Okay, so you can compare that to what you're seeing from your point of view, and hopefully it'll help you with your vibrato. A lot of my students struggle with the vibrato, and it's hard to teach because it's so much of it is the biofeedback that you're getting from the guitar itself. All right, but maybe this will help. Okay, take care. Okay, so I've changed the angle of the camera here to show everybody what's going on with my left hand when I'm doing bends. All right, so many beginner players, they think that they're pushing from their fingertips, right? And that they're gonna grab this and then just kind of mash this up with their fingertips. But what's really happening is that a fulcrum is formed between this last knuckle of my index finger, okay, and the bottom of the neck. And I'm not coming at the neck like straight on with all four fingers kind of touching it. It's more like I'm at a 45-degree angle, rotated away, right? And now there's still going to be some space left between the index, but the index is flush, but the palm is still falling away from here, okay? The thumb is on the top here, and this way, what we do is watch this part of my palm. See how like the wrist just straightens there? It goes from being at this angle to like that. And by holding that whole shape, and then we can start to wiggle the fingers a little bit, but really what we're doing is just kind of going like that, and not very much. Okay, when we go down, the same thing is happening. We're pulling against this knuckle. Sorry. Try to keep it all in D for you guys today. So what ends up happening is that our muscles get accustomed to how much tension they need to bring down. Let the rotation of your wrist be you're bringing the whole arm into the thing. You're kind of going like that and rotating your whole forearm is kind of going like that. Okay, so it's the ulnus and the radius, I think, are those two bones in there. That whole thing is rotating from the wrist like that. And that's the stationary vibrato. And right, that's the downward bend. Again, so when you do vibrato on the D and you're pulling down, that's what you're doing. Your thumb doesn't even really need to be involved. You can kind of see I'm not using the thumb. Okay, when I'm pushing up, I definitely have the thumb involved because you want to be able to push against something, so you cap the leverage here with your thumb and you're pushing up into that. So effectively the thumb takes the place of this knuckle. Okay, so when you're pulling down, right, we're pulling and rotating the wrist this way against that knuckle. That's the fulcrum. And when we're pushing up, okay, you can squeeze between that fulcrum and, again, your thumb, okay? A lot of people, they want to get the Clapton thing. We can talk about that in a minute. Okay, Clapton's vibrato is kind of a thing of beauty and somewhat of a unicorn. But, I mean, obviously we've all adopted much of that technique, especially handy for the high E string. So we'll get to that in a second. But let's look at just doing a typical, 2-fret bend from B to, actually, let's go from C to D. Okay. See the wrist move like that? Okay. So I'm just trying to show you what it looks like when I play so that you can kind of copy that. This is an advantage point we get to see from other players very often, I think. So obviously the further down the fingers we get with the pinky, we're going to be losing the ability to comfortably access that fulcrum when we pull down. So when we're doing that, definitely using more of the finger strength. Like I'll lock the fingers in and still try to do the rotation from the wrist. But there's obviously less of that hinge to work off of, right? There's the most leverage back here, and this way you have to kind of pull down straight rather than rotate on that circular curved axis or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so that's bending up or bending down or vibrato. Okay, upward vibrato. I don't often do upward vibrato on a fretted note. I usually reserve upward vibrato for bent notes. Right, and I do, you can do that too, I guess, vibrato on a downward pulled note, right? Okay, let's talk about high E. Now, when we're playing on the high E, we can't really do any downward vibrato. We're gonna constantly be pulling off the neck, right? So we have to get this technique. Okay, so what are we doing? Kind of going like that. Just kind of moving the whole. It's not from the knuckle. It's not from these wimpy little muscles here in the edge here. We're locking and bringing the whole. It's even more helpful actually if the guitar's on a strap. You can actually use the guitar's weight to push against. Okay, I'm sitting down now. So we're kind of just going like that. And I guess the motion is coming from my elbow and my shoulder a little bit, and I'm pulling from my forearm, but using the larger muscle groups to handle this. Okay, and you'll notice that's a tendency, but there also isn't an awful lot of ability to mute with the left hand. When I'm doing these kind of bends, right, on the way down, I can bend here, release my fingers, and then now that I know I have a clean strike, even if the right hand is coming in aggressively, that's all protecting it, right? But if I know I'm going to be doing upward vibrato, I have to make a clean strike. Because if I go like that across all the strings, like when I'm getting ready to do that, it's very, very likely to go and just make an awful racket, all right? So we can do it on any string. Okay, now we can do that we should learn how to do that with every finger. Index, middle, ring, pinky. All right. You can do this, but this is not the same as. You can get a lot of speed this way and a very, very good singing tone to the note, okay? So you really have to kind of separate this high E vibrato into its own little category. So, definitely practice that. It's easier further up the neck, okay? So now we've handled fretted vibrato, okay, bent vibrato, pulled vibrato, okay? We've handled the downward fretted vibrato and upward fretted vibrato. High E vibrato across everything. Now, last but not least, these are all vibratos that rely on up and down motion. All right, and often you'll see players from other instruments doing this more horizontal vibrato. Okay. Now, what's happening here is we're not really shortening the string. It's odd because we're not going up and down. We're not creating more tension. What we're actually doing is going back and forth and altering the amount of pressure within the fret by virtue not of pressing harder or less, but by actually coming closer to and therefore increasing the leverage on the string against the fret. So the further up the neck we go, like let's say we go to that D note we were playing. You can hear the fret actually, when I'm fretting, I'm actually releasing tension by getting closer. So that's flat, that's sharp. Okay, and I'm just really just rocking back and forth. Okay, and this, whoop. This is different than, which only pushes sharp. When we go this way, we go sharp and then flat of the note. Very, very interesting sound. It almost sounds like you're depressing a tremolo bar slightly. Okay, and there's an entire school of guitar player, like from, I think, over in like Azerbaijan and stuff like that, that utilize this as their primary vibrato. It's very cool, actually. It's an interesting sound. It's a little atypical to the blues rock, kind of thing that we're used to. But those are the main types of vibrato that, without a tremolo bar or vibrato bar, that I access. So the bent and a little wiggle. You can change the amplitude of the bend, right? So that would make the vibrato wider effectively. All right, it gets a little hairier like that. Overbending is its whole another thing. Obviously, all of these bends should be learned. You should learn how to do a 1-fret bend and add vibrato, a 2-fret bend, and add vibrato, or a 3-fret bend, right? Okay, without this vibrato though, the guitar sounds very flat and wooden a lot of times. Okay, you don't need to come right on with vibrato generally. I let the note kind of establish itself and then I start to give it that very even wiggle. So the idea is that you're always going to be returning to there from there. So I'm always going to the same place and then back to the same place. It's the inconsistency of travel that creates that, and also rate, that creates that nervous kind of sound that you hear in what I would say the less developed players' vibratos, okay? So. Is my little, I guess, snack on types of vibrato and how to achieve it from this point of view, okay? It's like something we don't get to study or see a lot of from other players. Have a great day, and I hope to see you soon. If you like what you're seeing on the channel, hey, do me a solid and subscribe, and tell your friends who are into guitar nerdy stuff about the channel. I'd love to help out. And if you guys are into private lessons, obviously, reach out to me at jack_divine@hotmail.com anytime.